Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your steadfast support of Ukraine and specifically your work over the years on the human rights issues and now the issue of war crimes. And I couldn't agree with you more. We need to ensure that the International Criminal Court takes this as seriously as the Ukrainian prosecutors are. They handed down their first indictment this week, I saw, and there's so many instances, as we're seeing constantly. Again, last night on video, seeing clear war crimes being committed. So I appreciate the work all of these public servants are doing every day. You all are waking up every morning, I know, with the thought in mind that America's role here is to help Ukraine win. And I want to talk a little about how we define victory. When Secretary Austin said after meeting with President Zelensky that we can win this war against Russia, this happened a few weeks ago, I thought that was positive. On Monday, the foreign minister of Ukraine, who all of us have had a chance to visit with, said, of course, the victory for us in this war will be liberation of the rest of the territory. So Assistant Secretary Donfried, first, just a yes or no, do you believe Ukraine can win this war?
Yes.
And how would you define victory? Would you define victory as requiring the return of all Ukraine's sovereign territory, including that the Russians seized in 2014?
Well, Senator Portman, thank you for that question, and thank you for your engagement on these issues. Your question very much relates to where Chairman Menendez began, which is, are we in a position of believing that it is Ukraine that should be defining what winning means? And I agreed with Chairman Menendez's statement on that, and that is where the administration is. We believe Ukraine should define what victory means, and our policy is trying to ensure Ukraine's success, both by
So the administration's official
and
position is that
Russia.
victory is getting Crimea back and getting the Donetsk and Luhansk region back as well.
Again, I believe that is for the Ukrainians to define.
With regard to energy, which is, I think, our number one problem with regard to sanctions, unbelievably, Europe still sends roughly, we are told, $870 million a day back to Russia in terms of energy receipts, funding the Putin war machine. I spoke to some of our European friends this week when they were in town for a Munich Security Conference type meeting, and I understand that we now have some arrangement with Europe through a task force where we're looking at making the switch from this dependency on Russia to other sources of fuel. But it's going very slowly, in my view. And I know it's easier for us to have made our decision than it is for the Europeans. We were sending about $50 million a day, by the way, to the Russians for the oil and gas that we have now shut off coming to the United States. But I'd like to know two things. One, what is this task force with the EU doing? In one of the statements, it mentions a work plan that the task force is following. What progress have they made to date in actually reducing reliance on Russian energy? And can you describe in more detail this task force work plan that was mentioned?
Senator Portman, I couldn't agree with you more that energy is a key factor in Europe's response to Russia's war against Ukraine. And you're right, the dependence of many of our European allies and partners is far, far greater than what the U.S. had. Some of these countries are 100% dependent on Russia for their energy supplies. And that was the reason why President Biden and President von der Leyen on the EU side set up a task force.
So what has the task force done? That's my question.
Well, the task force is trying to help the Europeans think about what are alternate supplies if and as they wean themselves off Russian energy. Okay. You've seen the Europeans ban Russian coal. They are now working
That will be as of August, so they haven't banned it yet.
Right.
They're still spending money on coal, and natural gas is the largest single one. So it's starting to get them to think about, I mean, I just think it's got to be, people are dying on the battlefield, civilians are dying, and we continue to fund this war machine through these enormous amounts of funds going back because of energy. The answer, obviously, from the U.S. point of view, is to provide them an alternative. And I've been critical, as you know, that the Biden administration has not done more to enhance our own production here, particularly with regard to natural gas that can be liquefied and sent to Europe. This last week, they had a record number of imports coming in to Europe through their own ports, bringing in LNG, liquefied natural gas. But I would hope that we would expand our production here quickly and stop the policies that are stifling the production, particularly of natural gas, and help with regard to the infrastructure that's needed. And let the Europeans know that we're going to be there for them because we have the ability in this country to be able to provide that, as well as encouraging our allies, particularly in the Mideast, to do so. So I hope that's what will happen. With regard to NATO aspirations, I hope we will also continue to say that we believe that this is something that Ukraine should aspire to. And I'll have further questions for the record for you, Assistant Secretary Lewis, with regard to the drawdown authority and how long it will last. But thank you very much for your service. And, Mr. Chairman, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I understand your urgency, and we share that sense of urgency. Thank you.
I